Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for this Ignite Leadership series. I'm really excited to be bringing you some fabulous leaders. We're going to have candid conversations. We're going to learn from their experience and hopefully get some really valuable morsels out of this series. So the reason why I've put this together is I have been in the industry for 20 years. I've been working with fabulous people. I've met some extraordinary leaders. I've helped build some extraordinary teams, and I really wanted to bring some of the knowledge and experience that I have come across to as many people as possible. So I've chosen LinkedIn Live to do this. I hope this forum works for everybody, and I will be here at 11:30 every Thursday until I run out of leaders to talk to, and I hope it's helpful for you. I've just put together this very short video to launch us each week so that people can see us go live, they can jump on board, and they know we're here. So bear with me, we will be going live at 11:30 as promised. So why is this important? This is important because it's to be good at what you do. It's really important to model good people. So if you want to be the best, model the best. And I have worked with so many wonderful leaders and helped them build teams. I've seen some really fabulous leadership styles. I've seen people who've developed over time as leaders, and the fastest way to do that is to, yes, there's theory, but let's move away from theory a little bit and let's look at what really happens in these roles with these people, and let's learn from the mistakes that some of the leaders have made. So I suppose I'm bringing mentors to the table through the experience that I have and the people who I have met over the years. So hopefully it's inspiring to you. Hopefully it's a place where you will gain some valuable information. Even if you pick up one thing from the conversation we're having each week, then that will be enough for me to feel as if I've brought you value. So I really do hope that you receive value from this. What I would love from you is if you can let us know you're here. Obviously we're live on LinkedIn. We would love interaction from you to know that you're here, you're listening. Let us know if there's something that comes up for you that resonates with you, something that you want to ask. The aim will be 20 minutes of conversation and then 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A, depending on how we end up. So hopefully that works for you all. As I say, please interact with us, engage. And if you would like a transcript of this session, I'm going to share transcripts with people who come to me and ask for them, and I will also put together a document which will be all of the key takeouts, the key learnings that we've received from each session. So I'll also be able to share that with you if you pop a comment in at the end of the conversation. So really excited to be here once again. Let's get on with it. I will see you on the other side. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I'm hoping that people are getting on. We're just trying to get the link up into the event, so hopefully it will be there for anyone who needs it. But welcome to today's leadership conversation with Ken Boal. I'm very excited to have Ken here. I'll just give you a quick rundown on who Ken is in case you haven't heard of him. But Ken Boal is the Vice President for Cisco Australia and New Zealand. He has been doing, or he's got a 25-year plus track record in the IT and communications industry, supporting the public and private sector to drive transformation, productivity and sustainable growth through technology innovation. Since 2013, Ken has led the Cisco ANZ organisation, and to achieve growth and technology market leadership in digital infrastructure, cloud technologies, collaboration and cybersecurity. So Cisco are doing a lot of stuff these days. He and the team support their Australian and New Zealand customers and the ecosystem of technology partners to digitise business and operations, generate value and ensure Cisco remains a trusted IT solutions partner and provider in the industry. You may or may not be aware that Cisco have been on a journey where they have I should bring Ken on. Sorry, let me do that. I forgot to bring Ken in. Here he is. Hi, Ken. How are you?
Hi, Rebecca. Very well. Thanks for having me. And hi, everybody.
You're welcome. And it is great to have you here. I appreciate you giving up some time in your day for us. We're really grateful for it. So yes, I was just touching on the fact that Cisco have recently been through a journey to become again #1 best place to work in Australia, and so that's really exciting, and I'm guessing pretty challenging as well. So Ken's going to share some things with us on that. To start with, Ken, I would love to just ask you about your journey into leadership. So I met you years ago as a leader in Netstar days, which was way back when. And I believe that you did move into leadership at a fairly young age. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that happened?
Yeah, well, I was certainly fairly young at the time. I mean, it was 1997 and I was 27. So I think everyone can almost reverse engineer. I just turned 50 during the lockdown, which was a bit of a bummer, but wasn't much of a party, although my family did look after me, which was nice. But listen, back in 1997, technology, I mean, the internet was sort of just starting and networks and all these things were building out. And it was interesting because I was actually an electrical engineer, a practicing engineer, realized that I wasn't going to be a great engineer. I think I felt I was probably stronger on the commercial side of the discussion than the technical side, even though I was very curious. So I soon worked out what my personal strengths were, and that was about dealing with people, curiosity around business performance, financials, and things like that. So, worked my way up through sales, being sales engineering, and then eventually took a leadership role. And quite frankly, I probably more stumbled into the position, a bit of a Stephen Bradbury type of stumbling into the prize, and made plenty of mistakes early in the career. But we did actually eventually build some really amazing teams during the late 90s and early noughties at the firm at the time, which was Annixter and Netstar. So it really did set me up. It was a younger industry back then, but and we probably were it was probably a lot more cowboy and a lot less professional than the industry has evolved to today. So there were a lot of lessons learned.
Yeah, so that was my next question, actually. So thank you for sharing that. And that would have been, I think it's great that you had the awareness early on that I'm not an engineer, because that could have been a bit of a disaster, I reckon. So what were some of the key lessons you learned early on when you were working in that environment when it comes to hiring and retaining talent?
Well, I think back then it was really about being quite hands-on with the talent, with your existing talent, but also with the external talent. And so really developing a brand in the marketplace about being a great place to work, having a great cohort and a great team. So we built quite a strong cohort of players in our team in different parts of the business, whether they were salespeople or technical people, operational people, supporting functions. There was really about building a great energy in the environment. So we were probably a little bit ahead of our time thinking about being a great place to work all the way back in the late 90s. But then working personally very hard to that was a much smaller firm, so I didn't have the brand of Cisco behind me and behind us. So we had to work even more sort of directly in engaging with external participants and sourcing external talent, and that's where we got to know each other. So that was really exciting, and obviously we would be out in the market trying to develop new business. We would be out in the market trying to develop new talent and people interested to come on board. So while personally as a leader, that's where I spent a very large percentage of my time. And I don't think you could spend too much time in really attracting external talent into a smaller firm. So that was really exciting. And sometimes it'd be frustrating because as a smaller firm, you'd bring great people in, but of course you'd develop them and then they might be attracted to bigger and better opportunities potentially. So it was a little bit of a revolving situation that you had to work through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember those days very, very well. And I mean, I think back then as well, there was a lot of focus on the technology as well. And so people, as long as they were getting, a lot of the really good people wanted that constant development on the technology front, but they also wanted to be seen as people. I remember it was really important for a company in terms of retention to be able to do that, and it still is. So yeah. So you moved into Cisco, and you took a bit of a step into a more sort of individual contributor role again. I remember, and then stepped into, I think it was one more role, was it, before moving into the VP? Yeah. So
actually, like I was actually quite happy to take a step back into an individual contributor role. And at the time, I felt, because I'd been a leader for about 6 or 7 years, and I was actually quite happy to move into a sales role, a business development role, because I still felt that I could develop my leadership capabilities as an individual contributor. At the time, I was working in Victoria, had the opportunity to engage with Victorian government and universities and different sorts of accounts and players, and really, work up and down the organisational stack of government and other public sector entities, and that was really exciting for me. And I found at the time it was also a good lesson when you get into leadership early. Sometimes you get in there a little bit too early, and this was a good opportunity for me to take a bit of a breather. And when you're not a leader, you actually observe leaders more than when you are. A little bit of outside looking in. And so I sort of observed a lot of leaders at Cisco at the time, but all around the community. And it helped shape my thinking about the type of leader that I wanted to be in the future, as well as continuing to develop my own leadership muscle. But I think also being a practitioner, also, and being able to, I think if you want to be a good coach, you need to be able to at least ideally have done a level of practitionery, if there is such a word. Probably not a word, I've just invented a new word. But develop those practical skills yourself, because then I think you're able to help coach those skills and experiences as well. So that really helped set me up. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then got into another, pretty senior role to run the public sector business all around Australia for Cisco. And that was another amazing opportunity, and one that I actually was a bit sneaky here, because I took the path least travelled. Right. Everyone wanted to get into banking and finance and all of the, let's say, the higher profile industries, and public sector was possibly the ugly duckling at the time, potentially viewed as less opportunity and a harder slog. So I saw less competition down that path. So I wanted to slipstream down that particular avenue, and recognising that there was great potential. And also when you're working with the public sector, there's a higher purpose and an impact that you can have, not just for your own business, but for the state or the nation. And I was quite excited by that.
Yeah. Just one question, just to slip in there. How did your ego cope with the step back into the individual contributor role?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, listen, at the time, people might have seen it as a step backwards, but listen, I was only in my mid-30s, so I still felt I had plenty of runway. There's no one standing around with a stopwatch saying, right, you have to be at this certain level in your career by this age. But listen, resilience is something, and external perception is not something I bother an awful lot about. Yeah. I think you learn more by playing your own game, being and knowing and being confident about your own game. Not being stubborn about being stuck to a plan. You do have to adapt it. You have to develop your own game.
Yeah.
But I was more than comfortable with it, and I just saw the leadership opportunity and the amazing opportunity that role actually also presented. So I was probably more excited about the role and less worried about the perception of going backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that was a bit of a ruthless question almost. So I appreciate you being candid with us as well. And so then you moved into a role where you were leading leaders. So that's like when you moved into the VP role you're in now, that's a different challenge altogether, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And listen, early into the senior leadership role, not quite the VP role, but a managing director role, which is a level down at Cisco under VP. Sort of in my late 30s, I was the beneficiary of an awful lot of leadership development, and I was very blessed. Many of us were at Cisco and at many companies. That's one thing that the larger companies do very well, is that they nurture and develop their talent. And so that really helped me. It was a sort of over an 18-month period, a crash course of leadership skills. Because at university, if I had my time again, I would have done a bit more of a skills mix, of probably an engineering commerce combo or even arts. But now, so we never had formal academic training in leadership and business management. So we got a lot of that. That really helped set me up. At the time, I thought I was overdoing it, but it really set me up to be not just the manager, but the manager of managers, and then eventually the ultimate leader of a pretty sizable organisation. It didn't prepare me fully, though, because let me tell you, the step to go from manager of manager up to sort of the ultimate leader of a firm is a huge gap. It's a huge step, and first of all, I went for it. I didn't actually get the job, and I'm glad I didn't first time around. I had to go second time. There was only 18 months in between, but missing out the first time was a blessing in disguise, because it highlighted to me some of the skills and experience that I lacked, helped me nurture some of those, develop some of those. But even then, by the time I got the role 18 months later, the first 18 months, I didn't know what I'd got myself into, and I was really trying to do too much myself. Yeah. And one of the early lessons within the first 2 years was, Ken, you've got to work with the team and the functions that are there to support you. Don't try and take on board everything yourself. So to me, that meant working with leaders of finance and strategy and planning, HR. These were my key business partners. Alongside the line of business owners, but these functional leaders were a tremendous support to help me to be a better overall organisational leader. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you mentioned to me that you've had coaches over the years as well who've come in and out of your life. Because I think there's a huge difference between theory and practice, like you've said. So you kind of step in and go, well, hold on, that's not what the book said. And so how did you overcome that gap? How good have coaches been for you during that time?
Yeah, I reckon I've probably had maybe 3, possibly 4 great coaches. I mean, I've been blessed with a couple of things. So first of all, the leadership development programs were great. I've been blessed with great managers, mostly, I would say. And I've done a bit of a best of breed. I've pinched a bit of their leadership DNA and style and rituals from many of them. So that's been helpful. But then this coaching aspect came up, and I've had some external coaches and some internal coaches. First of all, like even being willing to throw my hand up, because I was never super aspirational about being the ultimate leader of, say, Cisco in Australia, New Zealand. I was almost provoked into that role by one of the leaders at the time, who was Les Williamson, and he sort of said, mate, you're on my succession plan. I thought, well, that was a surprise, because I didn't ask to be, and I hadn't considered myself in that role. And it was an external mentor or coach that helped me, a wonderful woman by the name of Bronte Adams, who really helped outside of Cisco, who helped build my confidence that I could actually do it, but was a really good sounding board for ideas and how I would develop, how I would present myself. A lot of coaching outside of the actual cut and thrust of Cisco.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of others, but even to this day, because I've been a leader for quite a few years, and it's amazing how you occasionally fall back to your bad habits. Hard to believe. And so even just at the moment, in terms of, I've got a coach, and he's put me onto this great book called The Coaching Habit. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever. Michael Mungay Stania, who's an Aussie, turns out, and just being able to constantly remind yourself that we in our roles, in a very fast-paced environment, we've got to do more coaching and less directing and coming up with all the answers. So that's a little bit of real-time coaching that I've been enjoying recently, which is a good reminder. I think, at the ripe old age of 50, we've still got plenty there. Still got to be highly coachable, and it's playing a very active role for me.
Yeah. I think lifelong learner is a fabulous term, and constantly looking at ways. And I loved what you said there about modeling the people, taking bits from different leaders and different people and modeling that. So watching the behaviors, because if you're going to, I said it in the pre video for this as well, if you want to be the best at anything, then model the best if they know what they're doing. And even down to rituals, you mentioned rituals as well. I think it's so important, and it's holistic. Now, I'm very conscious of time. We have, it's 11:48. So I'm so great. You're giving us so much wonderful golden information here and feedback. And it's almost like having a mentor here we can talk to. I'm just looking at to my right, because the comments are not all coming up quickly on my, on here, but there's some great comments. So thank you everyone who's commenting in the chat. If you do have questions for Ken, please throw them in there. We will try to get to them today. If we don't, we will follow up with some responses to your questions. So would love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear if you're getting value as well. So do share that with us. Ken, I would love to now talk about the journey that Cisco has been on in terms of the best places to work. I worked with Cisco years ago, and they were #1 best place to work. And I was very proud to be part of the conversation. I used to, love the fact that it was kind of easy to attract people to Cisco at that point in time. They were kind of lining up, and it was more a question of managing the rush sort of thing. So I loved it. But then they kind of, the industry changed, the market changed, which is, it is constantly moving really fast. And I noticed Cisco sort of drop away from that. And just recently, congratulations, you are now #1 best place to work again, which I think is a phenomenal achievement. I'd love you to just share with me, what are some of the key things that you think you had to do, or you had to do, to become a best employer in the current climate, in the current environment?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And listen, everything you said about the setup of Cisco is absolutely true. I mean, it's an absolute A-grade company, and plays a key role. But it's been, let's face it, in terms of brand and growth, it hasn't been as front and center as the FANGs, for example. So if company success was measured by market capitalization, then maybe we wouldn't be viewed as successful. I mean, still huge. The financial metrics are very good, but possibly not as sexy and in the top 5 as say the FANGs have been in recent times. So and companies been going through a major transformation from a hardware player to a software and cloud player, and got a lot of support, 50 billion in revenue and lots of free cash flow, but under a lot of pressure. So that's forced, and that's set up a context for maybe potentially not the best place to work, because you are transforming, which means you are affecting legacy parts of what you do and your business and your products and your operating model, you're trying to drive that to become more optimized and more efficient to invest in new Cisco or new company. And that requires tough decisions. So that to me is what we're most proud of, is that we are in the middle of this transformation. We're making tough calls, but it's been a very people and human centered transformation. And I put a lot of that down to things that have been happening at both the global, the regional, and the local context. So this is not a Ken Boal story. This is a Chuck Robbins, previously John Chambers. It's a Miyuki Suzuki who's my boss, who runs Asia Pacific.
I love that.
And that's a whole team across Australia and New Zealand of leaders. And I think often HR and people factors aren't on the company transformation front line. They're not, they may be more in service to the transformation, not actually a lead element or ingredient of the transformation. And that's what Chuck and our Chief HR Officer, Fran, has really enabled, and a focus on employees, taking the employees with us, really focus on employee engagement. And of course, that's not simple. That is a complex, multifaceted aspect of employment and leadership. So there's a whole host of ingredients there that we've been working on around developing a conscious culture, creating interesting work, being purpose-driven. Around conscious culture, a lot of focus on meaningful diversity and inclusion, and what that does for our environment. And just moving from individual performance to team performance, and the whole nature of relationships between employees and managers. So there's a whole lot of stuff there, and that's what we've been working on alongside. By the way, let's continue to evolve our technology so that we're relevant. But the great place to work, I think, has been a great feather in our cap in response to all of those areas I just touched on coming together and really creating a wonderful experience for our employees.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. And this is what I said last time when I was talking to Chris. I wish I had another half an hour. There's so many more questions that come up from what you're saying. It's such a fundamentally important element of building a successful business. I'd love to know, what do you think the focus on the people aspect and getting this right, how important is that to the success of the business?
Well, it really is the ultimate, and for us locally, it's all about the people. I mean, it's an overdone saying, but it's absolutely true. So, I think for leaders, I think what we've moved to though is that it's about people, but it's about the people working in teams.
Yeah,
and I think that's been the big sort of evolution of our thinking the last 3 to 5 years, is this focus on individuals and people to groups of people, and how we work across teams, because particularly in larger companies, it's a team sport across different functions. That's how we develop and deliver at scale for our customers and partners. So a lot of our systems and metrics and programs have been pivoted away from individual performance to team performance, and the role of the manager in fostering great teams. And what does it mean to build the best teams?
Yeah.
And that's where we've got these themes of people being able to bring their best, so strength space, bring their best capabilities to the team, not something that they're not that great at, because somebody else will be great at that. Teams that have each other's back within the team, but also across teams, and then within the teams, people that share values. And those three things have come together with great leadership to really change the game for the way our teams have been working. And I think one of the big step changes in ANZ for my leadership group was how, as a team, we we totally re-challenged ourselves around what we could be, because we had a bit of victim mentality in ANZ, that we weren't being invested in, that Indonesia and all these other global parts of Cisco were getting more than we were, and that woe betide us. We really got together as a team and reset, and thought about our mindset,
Yeah.
and committed that we weren't going to be the victim. We were going to be bold, and we were going to take it on, and that we would have each other's back, but we would all bring our own personal strengths to the table. And sometimes teams require a bit of a moment, and we had our moment sort of back in sort of 2017 that helped us sort of then embark on another wave of growth.
Thank you so much. There's so much gold. I just got goosebumps. This is actually just, you're speaking my language in terms of, the growth mindset elements and resetting, and kudos to your leadership team in that case, because it is about the leaders. And I've always said it's about, people ask me about culture. They ask me culture of an organization. My question is always, who are you going to be working for? Which team are you going to be joining? Because leaders attract great people, or they repel great people, on the other hand, and it's so important. And so the way that you've embraced that is phenomenal. Have you given, do the leaders have coaching on this stuff as well? Is there a program in place for them?
Absolutely. And this is where, I think let's say over the years, some of the HR programs, we've looked at these, and there's been a little bit of passive aggressive around the validity of some of these programs. But these team-based programs have really resonated with our leaders. We don't always, charge in and thinking this is exactly what we want to be doing today. But by the end of those sessions and programs and workshops, everyone's at another level. And I really think this has been the big pickup for me, has been the role of HR. We now call them people and communities at Cisco, the transformational value that they bring. And when we talked about, Australia, and whether it's a company or a nation being innovative and transforming, the role of people and the role of the people function is absolutely front and center. So you can't spend enough time on it.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Now we are almost done for time. There's someone has asked a question that I'm going to ask you as my final question, so I will answer that. I'll get him to answer that for you, Matthew. I'll get Ken to. Thanks, Ernie. Yes, I agree. Cisco do build courageous leaders. That was from Ernie Hug. And Gaurav has asked a question, Ken. He is asking who's been your inspiration? So who do you look up to for inspiration and mentorship today in terms of other global leaders?
Yeah, look, a really good question. Right here, right now, I'd probably reflect it's more of a assortment of inputs from different leaders. I actually thought, and sometimes it's not the good, it's the not so good. Take out some of our prime ministers, for example, and I've had the wonderful thing about our industry is sometimes you get a seat at the table and talk about a little bit of imposter syndrome. You sit there and you think, what am I doing at this table? But then you recognize that technology is changing the nation. And you see some of our leaders up close and personal, and you see their leadership style. And you see some of the best bits of Prime Ministers, Turnbull, Abbott, ScoMo, for example, and you see different things that you put into your kit bag and certain things that you might leave behind. And all three of those I've seen really good ingredients. So you don't have to look too far. And even if you look in Victoria at the moment with the current challenge, there's good bits and there's maybe not so good bits about how we show up and how often we show up, and our role as a leader. Sometimes it's not just about the leader, it's about how they give other people the platform, and use the insight and advice of the experts and not so much the political leader of the day. So I reflect on some of that. Sometimes I come up with all the ideas and they're not the greatest ideas, so I need to hear more from our team. And I think that's, when we criticise our political leaders, we need to think twice, because we might be doing some of the same behaviours in our own firms.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very, very great observation and very helpful. So thanks for sharing that. Now, my final question to you is, if you could only share one thing, just one thing, with upcoming leaders in terms of something that they can carry with them that will be pivotal and helpful for them, what would that one thing be?
I think, well, first of all, probably leadership is getting more. There are higher expectations on leaders now than ever before. It's no longer just focus on business financial performance. There's so many other aspects. So be willing to, you've got to be broader, even to the point of understanding some of the social issues that are affecting our communities today. The breadth of conversations we're having at Cisco around race and ethnicity, diversity and inclusion, disadvantage, it's amazing compared to what we were having only 5 years ago. So that's one aspect. I think the other thing is, don't be a one-trick pony. Be adaptable in your leadership style. There's a time to be directive and authoritative, and there's a time to be more consultative and supportive. And I think experience and your judgment, you'll build that wisdom over time when to apply that particular leadership style on that particular moment or program. And, sometimes we get them wrong, but I'd say develop those muscles. It's like when we walk, you've got different muscles all working together. Sometimes flex the consultative muscle, sometimes flex the directive muscle, but develop all of those muscles and then work when each is required, and that'll be a fantastic leadership capability.
That's fantastic. So it's about being really curious and open to other people's input, what's going on at the time, and rather than assume you've got this right. Yeah,
exactly. And my boss has always brought the Miyuki. She keeps reminding us that the team have the ideas. They know what needs to be done. They're closest to the market. Yeah. So let's listen to the team. Let's extract the growth ideas and support them in their efforts. And I think that's totally true.
Yeah. Wonderful. Stephen, hopefully that just answered your question. I just saw the who mentors you from the ranks pop up, and it sounds like Miyuki is a great mentor within Cisco for the leadership here as well. So fantastic. I am so grateful, and I'm sure that we've had over 50 people on here live, so that's exciting, and I'm sure that they are very grateful. There's been comments coming through of acknowledgement, and so I really do appreciate your time. If anyone would like to connect with Ken, please just reach out to him here on LinkedIn, and be aware that I'm offering you as well a transcript and notes of key learnings from today's session. So they will be out hopefully Monday. If you are interested in this, please either send me a private message or pop it in the chat here. And I will get that to you as soon as possible. Next week, we have the amazing Wendy O'Keefe on to talk to us. So Wendy has been an absolute stalwart in the distribution space. She has built some incredible teams. She has a track record and reputation for being a really great leader. And so I'm excited to have her here next week. Hopefully you can join us. I will put the link out as well. And I, once again, want to just thank you so much, Ken, for your time today. It's been phenomenal, and lots of people commenting what a great use of 30 minutes, and how much people have enjoyed the session and the insights. So, again, thank you for being candid with us as well. All right, and have a fabulous day.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful you managed to take time out to spend with us. I hope you got some value from the conversation. And just a reminder, I will be here every Thursday at 11:30 talking to another fabulous leader and bringing you more great morsels and value and mentoring. So please do join me. And if there's anything you would like to talk about when it comes to attracting, developing, retaining high-performing teams, please reach out. I would love to have a conversation. If you would like a transcript of the session, please remember to leave me a message or get in touch, and I'll also produce a document which will have the key takeouts from today's session, so I can share that with you too. All right, thanks again. Have a fabulous day. I will see you next time.